Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ACDT number 75. Today's March 23, 2026. Yeah, let's just get started. We have a agenda comprising almost entirely of DevNets. And we are gonna decide whether we split into two breakouts further into the call, because it might or might not be necessary, but we can start discussing and then we can decide on two breakouts, like we did last week. Yeah, let's just get started. So yeah, first item in the agenda for today is the Blob DevNet Zero. I think Barnabas, you might be the best person here to give us an update. Let me see if he's on the call.
Yep,
All
I
right.
can give a quick update. So in Blob.NET 0, we are testing the partial cell stuff, and Nethermind and Aragon is failing to stay at the head. This seems to be just an issue in their trunk branches. I'm curious if Aragon or Nethermind has a table release that we could use instead of the trunk branches, because the trunk branches seem to be just breaking way too often. So ideally, we should have a stable release with the getblob v3, and then we could pin it to that, and we could resync it. Unless people want to dive into what the breaking databases are. I've pinged both client teams with the log messages that I see, and I'm just curious to hear what's up. And on the other side, we're still waiting to onboard more CL teams once the partial cell implementations are done for them.
We will take a look into what you sent us. I wasn't aware yet. I haven't noticed it yet.
Yeah, just let me know if you need anything else.
All right. Anything from Aragon? If you guys want to chime in or?
Yes, so we are finishing our 8037 implementation. We are mostly done. Still, like maybe a couple of bugs remaining. And I saw a message was it from Stefan or about the asserter? So I'll take a look into that tomorrow probably.
Oh, I think this is for Blob DevNet 0. Is that correct?
No, no,
Okay.
no. It's about 8037 testing.
All right. Yeah. But is there anything for Blob DevNet 0 from your side or nothing from there?
I haven't looked at the block.NET 0 issue. Okay, I'll take a look tomorrow at it probably as well.
Sounds good. Barnabas, anything else?
No,
for
that's it.
Blob DevNet 0? Okay. All right. Yeah, let's move on. I think last week there were some issues regarding Blob DevNet 3, and there were problems on clients staying together, if I understood correctly. So let's just jump into about the three issues. Stefan, I think you're the best person here to give an update, or also Spencer.
Yeah, sure. So we are getting some updates from clients in. I think Bezel pushed an update today that I will look into. Aragon has been pushing a lot of updates over the weekend. I'm just looking into those right now. It seems there has been a lot of progress. Nimbus EL and Ethrex are very far ahead. I think they're pretty much done regarding the testing, but maybe Spencer can say a little bit more regarding the testing. I think there are still with Geth, there might still be issues regarding the contract size increase. I'm not sure if that's just some error mapping or if there's still some tests. Bezo, I hope will be passing all the tests with the recent push. I'll fix that. Bezo had 19 failures. Go Ethereum still has 49 failures, and Nethermind still has, and Reth, they both have still over 400 failures, so they're still actively developing. But I think we're pretty close now from the implementation, and I will be doing a lot of testing this week. Over to Spencer.
Hey, yeah, I don't really have much to add. I think yeah, a lot of the failures on Hive are exception mapping failures. So yeah, I guess over the next day or two, I'm definitely going to be pushing to get all the tests passing on Hive. Yeah, there's been good progress over the past week. It's worth mentioning that we might have another spec change, like tiny change for like a single test. But we can deal with that for any other future spec changes to 8037 in the next DevNet. So I think we're all in agreement to stick with what we have for now, get everything passing, and then future updates can happen for DevNet 4. The bug that Stefan found on Aragon, we don't actually have a test for that. So yeah, I'll get working on that as well.
Sounds good. Any comments on DevNet 3? Either specific to 8037 or anything else from clients who want to chime in? Any issues with the tests or concerns?
From Red side, I have run all the state tests, the latest 5.5.1. There are a few inconsistencies, but as Spencer said, we'll move that changes to the DevNet 4. So yeah, this text feature seems okay now.
All right. Anything else from other clients? Besu, Nimbus, or Geth? Are we doing okay with tests, or do you guys need any help? Okay, great. If not, I think the next point in the agenda is block level access list DevNet number 4. I do feel like we're still like trying to iron out the issues on DevNet 3, but I wanted to open the floor for discussion if we want to start discussing DevNet 4 changes. Stefan, how do you feel here? Do you feel it's too soon, or should we defer this to next week, or should we start this week?
Yeah, I think it would make more sense to defer from my perspective. But I'm open to discussion if anyone wants.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, we can talk about like, would we want to create a Glamsterdam DevNet 1 instead of having a Bal DevNet 4?
That's a great question. I think we should wait until we discuss the EPVS DevNet 1. Actually, we should jump into that. And then discuss Amsterdam DevNet 1. All right. So EPVS DevNet 1, do we have someone with the status on this?
EPBS.NET 1 is currently on hold until we can make a decision on the PTC questions.
Okay, great. All right. So at this point, we should decide whether we want to do the breakout into separate rooms or we want to stick into this. I feel that the only decision that has to be made for EPBS is PTC. And from the sound of it, it looks like it's going to be a quick one. So should we start just discussing that and see if we can close it out and then jump into block level access list right here? Is that fine by everyone? Yeah. All right. Yeah. POTUS, take it away if you want on your discussion with PTC.
We said that we would have clients coming with options. So I start asking clients what they prefer.
Sounds good. All right. Let's start with the clients. Either any of the CL clients would want to kickstart the conversation on PTC?
Yeah, I can talk for Teco. I think well, from my perspective, I prefer the newest version, which is basically computing the PTC during process slots. Makes the state size a bit smaller. The only thing is the additional computation process slots, but I don't think it's that much of a big deal. It's a good alternative to the previous one.
Yeah.
That's the
Justin,
one that Justin showed.
all right. Any other clients want to chime in with preferences?
For Lighthouse, we don't have a super strong preference, but we think it might be useful to have the PTC in the state, so that we don't have to like recalculate it for older states if we ever need that for some reason. But I think it's maybe more useful to have the full PTC for the epoch instead of just the last one. But yeah, we don't have like a super strong opinion.
Any other CL clients want to chime in on PTC?
My tendency is to prefer things in state to not in state for actually testing reasons largely. I think we've seen so many bugs over the years that amount to the caching was wrong, and across every client essentially. I'm not gonna single anyone out, and this both creates by putting in a consensus means that that there will be a consensus testable thing, and that will be sort of the same across sort of tested in that regard. I don't have that's sort of my bias, I guess, here.
Yeah, POTUS.
Yeah, for Prism, it's essentially the same thing that Dustin just said. We would prefer having this on the stage. It's not a strong preference. 50/20 works. 42/92, I think, is the other option, also works. It's fine for us. But our preferred method would be not only the previous version that has 2 epochs in the state, but actually add an extra one and keep 3 epochs. One for the previous epoch and the next 2 epochs, so that we have duties also. In a finalizing chain, we should, by just having the dependent root on the state, we can just pick any state, any head state, or any state on any branch, and it would just give us the PTC. It will solve completely what caching is. And yes, it adds between 256 and 384 kilobytes to the state, but the state is several hundred megabytes anyways. So it avoids hashing, it avoids rehashing. You only need to compute it once an epoch. It solves completely the caching, and as Dustin said, it's testable on spec test. I think it's pain on space on the state is not much of an issue.
Yeah, I would generally, I mean, to me, the size is not the argument. I mean, against that, if such an argument exists, I'm sure some people are bothered by that size, but given that, as you say, the size is several hundred megabytes and growing with every validator, because of course it's not only the active validators, then this is the relative, the ROI is pretty high on this for me, even for 256 or 384 kilobytes.
All right. Any other clients who wish to chime in on this? I feel like it's a little bit contentious, so it seems to me.
Yeah, so from Lodestar side, I guess we are also fine with all three options, to be honest. So I was working on the 4992 PR and found it a bit wasteful that we have to process every slot. And in Lodestar, we didn't even use that data because we have a cache already. So modifying the state each slot was not ideal in my opinion. That's why I brought up 5020, which is more minimal and you only need to update the state once. But I'm also in favor of the other option that Podus mentioned, where you cache three states, because this also solves a problem, or it's not a real problem, but basically right now, if you need to get the duties for the whole epoch at slot 0, and if you're the validator and you have a slot 0 duty, you basically have very little time to prepare for that. I think for PTC, this would probably be fine. But yeah, still, I think on duties, it's even good to have another epoch of look ahead. So I would also be fine with that change.
All right. It doesn't seem like we have a strong decision. But do you feel like should we take this into the breakout room and then make the decision, or?
I think we can make a decision here. It seems that it was essentially everyone on the same PR except Teku. And even within Teku, I see Enrico being convinced otherwise.
Yeah, I think like the testability argument and the slot 0 timing that has been improved on the block proposal, and we get something like that for PTC as well. I mean, I think like at the end makes sense to have some bias toward having more data on state and having more stable things and testable things. That's my personal opinion.
All right. Are we missing any seal clients from commenting? All right, should we make a decision, or Boris, how do you feel? Or what information are we missing to make a decision?
I think we've already made a decision, it seems.
Yes, and I see your comment on the chat. What specs on Tesla were you talking about? Do you have a PR for that, or?
I don't know which PR POTUS is going to update, but he said he was going to make the changes that we just agreed upon here. So updating it to be 3 epochs worth of PTC values. Yeah, to be clear, the PR is not ready yet, but it will be in a few minutes.
All right. So steps forward seems like it's updating the PR and then merging it, and then that's the path we're gonna follow for EPBS DevNet 1. Is that correct?
Yep, sounds correct to me. And then we can produce a release with this shortly, maybe end of this week.
Excellent. All right. And one last question from Barnabas. Do we do variable PTC deadline? Just to close it out.
No, we were never going to test benchmarking on DevNet 1. DevNet 1 is supposed to be about testing the new structures. So we don't even want to be dealing with the builder API, for example. So we're going to be just only testing on DevNet 1 external builders, withdrawals from builders, and these kind of things. But not even the builder API.
No, I mean, do we do variable PTC deadline in general?
Yeah, so that's something that is just not a hard fork. It's more about benchmarking. I think those kind of things should be discussed like several weeks, months from now. At any rate, there's Tony has put up a document arguing against variable PTC. There doesn't seem to be even consensus on whether we want this or not. It's a trivial change that we can add at any time if it's deemed important. I don't think we need to discuss this now. We can just focus on testing what we have a broken DevNet 0 now. We can just focus on when we're going to ship DevNet 1, when we're going to have this PR, and just continue testing the structures, not the benching.
Okay, great. So Justin shared the document in the chat. Please take a look regarding this. Cool. If nothing else, I think we can jump into block level access lists now. Yeah, I think Tony, you have a couple of topics that you wanted to raise. Are you ready to go ahead with this?
Yes, the agenda for the bulk breakout would be very small today, so I think we can also just keep it in that call. Basically, asking clients how far they are with their optimizations, especially focusing on the parallel batch IO. And we should also have some first numbers on the execution parallelization. And it would be great if we get an update on that. yeah, maybe if someone from Benchmarker is on the call, or people involved in the testing, would be great. We can't hear you, Jochen.
So yeah, I hope that Jochen comes back with his microphone. But until then, there has been only, I think, 1 or 2 test runs with block access lists yet. But the one that I looked at had a lot of failures, but the tests that were not failing, and those are most likely like unrelated failures. The tests that were not failing, they were significantly faster. So yeah, the parallel execution seems to have pretty good benefit on the worst cases in execution, just as we assumed. So that is very nice. I don't know if Raphael is on the call, or Jochen has his microphone now.
Yeah, let me check. I see a green thing, so maybe you can now hear me.
Yeah,
Yes, it works.
Okay, great, nice. Okay, so for the benchmarks, we already have a lot of benchmarks, but for the clients, we would need we need these flags. Especially the prioritization is now the batch IO, so we need a flag for clients to enable/disable the batch IO optimization. So this batch IO optimization is that you read the you prefetch the block access list reads, so that you can quickly get them when they are necessary when you are executing the benchmark. I see on the BAL-DevNet 3 spec and also on the BAL-DevNet 2 spec that Nethermind, Irigon, and Ref do not have the, sorry, on BAL-DevNet 3, Nethermind and Irigon do not have the batch IO flag. So we cannot we cannot run the clients with this batch IO flag enabled/disabled, so we cannot see the effect of this optimization. So the request for these clients, so Nethermind and Irigon, is to enable this flag to specifically allow this optimization. Then for the other part, this is about the filling of these tests. Camille has been working really hard on this, but just to check here, for these benchmarks, I think the only thing that we need here, or well, the numbers what we need here is the performance, and we don't need like a trace of this. I just want to check with everyone if this is correct. So we do not need like an opcode count, because this is necessary for the gas repricing, but we don't need this for the effects for the batch IO. Is this correct?
Sorry if that was directed to me. Could you quickly repeat that? I didn't get it.
Yeah, it was more like a general question, but for the batch IO, the thing what we need here is like we need a comparison between the runs of clients where the batch IO is enabled and the batch IO is disabled, and we do not need like an opcode count, so like a debug trace. Is this correct?
Yes, exactly. We're mostly interested in stateful tests between enabling it and disabling it.
Okay, great. Okay, then Camille, the blocker here is that we need to fill these tests, and we are currently using Nethermind to do this, but there seems to be a bug or like a memory leak in the bug building part. So I would suggest, or well, yeah, let's use another client to fill these tests so that we can start running these stateful tests also, because we're currently running the compute test, but that's of course not, well, it should not have a large effect on the batch IO numbers. So let's fill those on another clients like Peso or Gav or whatever supports filling these.
Yeah, I will try to use any of those, and still will be debugging what's happening with Nethermind.
Also from my side, so we do already, so end of last week I was able to run Geth and Peso like with and without optimizations, and without balls at all, like sequential. And yeah, I shared like the result with Tony and some other folks, and you could definitely see like the performance gains using balls. And today, Stefan also told me that Reth also has these flags now. So I'm just right now doing a run with Reth. And yeah, once it's finished, I will also share the results.
Yeah, I want to quickly add, because we are really interested into this, specifically this batch IO thing. So for the clients, we need this endpoint where this prefetch is enabled or not, and not that we disable like the entire block level X list optimizations and without it, because then we are also taking out like parallel execution and other optimizations which clients might have. This batch IO is necessary because we have to decide, yeah, on the final spec of the block X list.
Yeah, so right now it's just Nethermind and Ericon missing on that front.
But Raphael, you're running the test on DevNet 2 spec right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. When can we expect to update that to DevNet 3 spec? Once DevNet 3 is launched, I guess?
Yeah, exactly. That's once it's stable enough, then we switch over to DevNet 3 specs for the benchmarks. The idea is to still have DevNet 2 just so we can do a first iteration of the benchmarks, but not necessarily for the numbers to make a decision on.
Okay, so just to iterate on the asks. So this is an ask for Erigon and for Nethermind to add this flag to enable or disable this batch IO optimization.
Yeah, and if Nimbus EL or Ethrex also added, that would also be great.
Well, we don't have that optimization in Aragon yet, so we just have to implement it.
Sorry, could you clarify what the flag is exactly?
So if you look at the spec, there are 3 different flags. And the most important one is the no prefetch, or the prefetch one, where there is an optimization to read all of the state in the beginning. And we want to enable and disable that to see the performance.
Right, and this is prefetch like in isolation, right? Not the other parts, right? That's
Yeah, exactly. In isolation, yeah. To just trigger this
okay.
one optimization.
Right. Okay, understood. Thanks.
Yeah, I've seen some people have asked like for the link of some results. I'm just getting it and I will share it here in the chat.
Okay, Tony, is that the entirety of block device list topics, or do you want to discuss something else?
No, I think that's it. If no one else has something to discuss, so those optimizations and the first benchmark results are basically it. So far, it looks like Beso and Gef get a 3x out of the execution parallelization. And yeah, we're still working on the stateful tests to test the batch IO.
Also worth to note the 3x you're mentioning, that was with a limit of 4 CPUs. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Any other topics regarding block.access list? There's one last topic that Like Client brought up in one comment on the agenda, so I wanted to jump into that. But I want to check first if there's nothing else from block.access list that we want to discuss today. All right. Cool. Like Client, are you there? I think there's one comment from you.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys. Just wanted to quickly bring up the documents that we came up with last week on the frame transaction mempool. I know this was one point of contention on the last all chords as execution call. So the way that we've written is we first wrote a kind of like broader HackMD that goes over the general ideas of like how do you build a mempool for native account abstraction. We talked about some of these like shared validation rules. These are things that were really pioneered by the ERC 7562. And then we lay out a handful of strategies that we feel are like reasonable approaches to building the actual transaction pool. And then the second link is a PR to the EAP, which is a more detailed implementation of the spec for strategy 2. I can quickly just like say the strategies. The first strategy is self-relaying. So that means that the consensus nodes all support users who submit AA transactions and are going to pay for their own gas. This is like, the standard use case today for transactions, but they don't support in the transaction pool gas abstraction. So it's still supported by the actual changes in the protocol, but we aren't going to, in that strategy, allow people to propagate like bundled transactions. And I think that if we did strategy 1, it's quite simple. The risks are fairly minimal. In many ways, similar to what we already have with 7702 transaction pool. But the sponsored transactions will have to go through some like private flows rather than being in the public mempool. We feel that this is a really good strategy, and it's a good fallback if we decide to do strategy 2, which is kind of what our preferred strategy is right now. It's a good fallback if like through that process we have too much contention that we can't move forward, or we find problems that are not easily solvable. So that's that gives us native account abstraction in the protocol. It's pretty easy and straightforward. The second strategy is the canonical paymaster strategy, which is still supporting self-relaying, but we also support bundlers who use a canonical paymaster. And the reason we can use this canonical paymaster in this instance is because we canonicalize a paymaster that has certain properties which the protocol can reason about, and that we know that is safe to allow many transactions to depend on for validity. And without like explaining like in detail, essentially what we need the canonical paymaster to do is to, once it receives ether, once it has balance, that balance doesn't leave the contract unless it's paying for the execution of another another user. And so like with some of these building blocks, we can construct a pretty safe transaction pool from that. So that's our preferred approach right now. If we were to go the full route and do totally permissionless deployment of any kind of paymaster logic, then we would need to do the full ERC 7562. And that is pretty well specced out, but it does bring into the protocol like staking for paymasters and a reputation system for paymasters. And so we felt that while there are nice benefits of it because you have high flexibility, the complexity is just too high for us to recommend going for this approach from the beginning. So that's what we're thinking on the transaction pool. Happy to answer any questions if they exist right now. Also happy to have a breakout room sometime this week if people would rather have like a longer form venue to discuss this stuff before we jump to ACDE on Thursday. Just like let me know what people are feeling.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that a breakout. Even for personally myself, I would love to join and discuss this. And yeah,
Okay,
but
I'll try and schedule it for Wednesday. If that's good with people.
awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for sharing this. This was the last topic in the end of the day. Is there any other topics that we have to discuss today? Anyone wants to bring up before we close the call today? All right. If not, I think it's time to close it. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, have a nice week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.